Nice to see everyone. So what I've done is I have decided I've only got like a few meetings left really for the rest of the apparent year. Bit of a story, isn't it? Three meetings on a Sunday because I'm away in Munich this coming weekend and then in Budapest weekend after. And then you only have two. I'm not sure. I think I can do both of them. Definitely do one of them. And then you have the Christmas period. So I just said I'd make them free. But I'm going to put a link in the comments, and obviously anything you can contribute at all is really greatly appreciated. I would do it this way if it works, if enough people contribute, I would do it. It was working for a while, but then kind of got to the point where most people weren't, so I kind of did it the other way. Anyway, that's the way it is. So that's the story with this one. And then on a Wednesday, um, what's happening on a Wednesday? Oh, Patreon people on a Wednesday. So I can move them around a bit, but I'd always let the Patreon people know the day before. But uh, might even be doing morning, afternoon, and evening. But I think it's afternoon and evening this Wednesday. So just kind of hitting different time zones and stuff and seeing how that goes. So that's the scale. Um, that's all the plugin and all that stuff out of the way. We can get on to nothing. So what we're all here for, nothing. Uh, Nothing being everything. And that's what we're, just turn the phone off there. Nothing being everything. So this is a unique conversation. Um, it's uh, a conversation in which there's a sharing from this character, um, but it's really from nothing. The sharing is actually from nothing. It's not from knowing. It has nothing to do with Kenneth anything any more than it would have to do with you. And by you, I mean the person who's apparently on the Zoom meeting. Um, there, it's a sharing from nothing that is, it's an illumination, it's a conversation. A conversation is just energy, and it's a suggestion that the sense that you may have that arises of feeling like you, the lived sense that you're there living your life and there's an outer world and this inner world, um, that's a story, and it always has been, and there never has been in you ever. There was never an individual. Yet when that sense of separateness appears to arise, then that sense of being you or being separate individual very much is a lived reality for you that feels separate. So then there's a searching and a yearning, um, which manifests in infinite different ways, really. But we can talk about some of the main ones. We can talk about it, whatever. It doesn't matter. We can talk about any way in which you're searching, any way in which you feel you're yearning, any questions you have about what's being suggested. You cannot ask a silly question. You cannot ask an insightful question, really, either. It doesn't matter. This is not about being clever, because it's not about knowing. It's unknowable, what we're talking about. It's ungraspable. It's unobtainable. It's simply already whatever is appearing to happen. And that's how it appears to evade you when you feel like you're separate, because what's yearned for is overlooked in favor of what could be or might be around the next corner, you know. So most of you have heard all of this before in a way, but it's always new, is the thing. I've never said words like that. I appear to have, and you'll find a video of me, but it's always new. Everything is new. So let's see what happens. You can ask a question in the chat as well if you want, if you're shy. You made it worse.
Well, Kenneth, how are you?
Hugh, how you doing?
I'm very well. Yeah. Um, Today, I don't know why, but I always find it's interesting. Like different ways of expressing it can resonate in um, different times. But today was whatever I'm looking at, or wherever I am, is like it's just an expression of oneness, or expression of divine love, or whatever the hell, expression of wholeness. But it was in the back of my mind, and um, it really felt like it was a day where, yeah, very connected to it. But it was
Mm.
like sometimes it'll be a different line that'll work or that'll resonate, but I find that interesting. That's what's apparently happened today. Um,
So,
yeah,
what line resonated? What do you mean resonate?
like like you can have it could be it's just what's apparently happening. That could be one way of saying it. It could be it's just an expression of wholeness, whatever it is. It could be oh, I'm drawing a blank here, but there's like loads of ways you'll say it, or you've heard people say it. Or all there is this. This is it. Um, but today, for whatever reason, the expression of wholeness was working,
Mm.
for want of a better word. But
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, it was just it's very simple. There's just what's appearing to happen.
yeah.
Just
But like you say that all the time, and like sometimes you're like, "Geez, it's just what appearing to happen." But then you don't hear it, and then you hear it. But it's yeah, I just find it interesting how, for whatever reason, one day some new line just resonates.
yeah. Yeah, but it's really what we're talking about is something that's inexpressible. So, and inescapable too. So it's very, very simple. It's too simple and ordinary and direct. There's just what's appearing to happen.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no you that it's happening to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody can say it. It can't be said. It can't be expressed. So it doesn't like the expressions for me, like it doesn't matter what's said at the beginning of this video at all. It's just it's just an apparent gathering where there's a sharing, and that is all energetic, really. It doesn't matter about the words.
No,
It can't, nobody's ever been able to say it. It's impossible.
it really
Or,
is. Yeah.
or, or to describe what's being suggested here. Nobody ever. It's totally and utterly impossible.
It's like trying to get your head around infinity, right? It's like you can't.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like infinity, the mind would come up with maybe it's a really, 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 really long time. Yeah. It's not a really, really long time. It's no time.
No, no.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it is kind of like that. Like, I mean, it's like um, it's infinite and boundless and infinite and eternal and whatever. But as an individual, you think you can use time and space then to discover it or approach it, or because it's an it, because you're an it, you know, because that's that whole lived sense of subject and object. It's a thing. And that's okay. That's just the way it is. Or that's the reality that the individual appears to live in. So what else would they do? You know? But it's beautifully impossible. Yeah, absolutely. It's impossible. What you we think we can know and have what we're yearning for, but it's not. Doesn't involve getting anything. It involves a loss of the one that's looking. So it doesn't, like, if it's some days it's, oh, it feels clear, or this line is clear, or that line is clear, or whatever. It's just so simple. There are no days. There's just, there appears to be
Yeah.
days, and we can mark the days and count down. We can put a line through the day on the calendar, and you know, but it's a story, it's a narrative. There's just aliveness.
And like that, I've gotten like little, like I've heard you say as well, the free fall, and gotten just little senses of that, and how, um, yeah, how out of control or the chaos, I suppose, or whatever the words you want to put in it, but
Yeah, I like that word
it
because
is
it's hard
quite,
to pin
yeah,
down, but that is what I'm getting at with Freefall, really, is the contrast to the sense of you having a life, um, feeling you're living your life in that ordered, linear manner, and having control over at least certain aspects of your life because it feels like your life, and living in that knowing. And Freefall is the full-on aliveness that you're actually afraid of.
yeah,
You're
terrified of
intrigued. You're intrigued by, and you'd like a little bit of it, you know,
it. Yeah,
doses of it, but it's it's too much, really. But so it's free fall,
it's like
free
all those
fall.
little things, little techniques or things you'd have to, I don't know, make things go better, or the things you tell yourself, or the things you've picked up along the way that it makes your life easier in some way. But then you kind of, when you step into this, it's like you just drop all that, and you're just left with nothing, just looking into it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's about poverty, total loss. Yeah. Whereas logically, it would be logical that if you're looking for something, that you would find something. You would find the thing that you're looking for. You know, if something's missing, then I can find it then. And then we have, of course, other people who in the story they have found it. So they tell us what path we should travel and get to where they are. So that can make it feel even more real then. But it's actually not that's logical that if something's missing, I can find it. And what you're yearning for is not logical at all. And isn't it doesn't involve you getting some, it doesn't have anything to do with you actually, amazingly, because you're a story. But it's actually loss. And in that loss is nothing, and nothing is everything. That's terrifying to the individual. I mean, that's a loss of all this really kind of dense belief system I had, and whole kind of paradigm about how conceptual kind of framework about how the way the world works and why it's like this and why it's like that. And, all of that being empty, it's terrifying. So actually, like nobody wants what's being talked about here. The energetically, the individual would dearly wish for the communicator to just offer them something, and can't really hear what's being suggested. So that's why I'm not talking to anybody. There's just a sharing, this conversation, but there's nobody to talk to.
Yeah, well, final points, then I'll pass the mic to whoever else. But I find as well an interesting side effect is just nearly as interested in books or movies or things that are about. Maybe that's just a temporary thing. I don't know, but
Yeah, who knows? Just doesn't
so
matter.
much what's going on is about like people's lives and all that story. It's just not as interesting as it was before. Got to
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, it's all about the story. It's all the story about it's the dualistic dream. And that's what we're presented with. Um about how there are other people and how they're making their life work, or they're a disaster and they're not making their life work, and how this person did this really special thing that will go down in history, and
Yeah,
whatever it is, making history. I always found that one quite amusing. We're going to make history here. um and it can feel that if you feel that you're living your life, the whole thing feels real, and it'll be filled with whatever degree of meaning that is imbued from in your reality. So for some person, an event, because there are events, there are things that are happening for the individual, So if you don't feel like an individual, there aren't really events. They're just apparent events. There's nothing appearing to happen. And all the meaning and significance is just completely and utterly gone from it. It's just a play of light. Yeah. So you've no interest in the movie. It's all one movie anyway, Stu. It's all
no,
one
no,
big
it's just
movie.
you know yourself. You just sometimes stick on a movie or something like, or even reading a book, or just find myself not. I don't know if anyone else finds that, but just not doesn't have the same hook. But interesting too is listening to music and be listening to I don't know some jazz or something, and just realizing it's just what is apparently happening. It's like it's not less interested in the actual musician and who they are and what their story was. And
Oh
I have
yeah, yeah.
bit of a tangent here, but like I think
No,
it
it's
was
not
you
at
who said
all.
it in a meeting a while ago. Or maybe it was I forget what it was. I think you said something about Bob Dylan's talking about on some American show, 60 Seconds, and his early lyrics. And he says he doesn't know where they came from or who they came from, but he couldn't write them now. It's like yeah, I don't know how that's connected to it, but it's like energy was just he was just yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like he couldn't claim ownership of it. It just kind of came. Oh,
yeah, yeah. I don't really remember saying any of that, but I kind of
interesting if anyone wants to check it out. It's on 60 seconds or 60
yeah.
minutes, whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, I think
Oh,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. A lot of musicians have said it though. I'd hear a lot of musicians saying it. Our artists, they'd say, well, it's really nothing to do with me. Sometimes they call it flow. I think it's quite commonly called flow. They're just flow. It's not me doing it. Um,
yeah.
and then they talk about kind of getting out of their own way, um, which obviously is impossible. You can't get out of your own way. You're not there to get out of your own way. But I know what they mean when they say that too.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's stunning. Like there's just, oh body swayed to music, oh brightening glance. How can we know the dancer from the dance? You know, that Yeats line.
mm,
Because you can't know the dancer from the dance because there is no dancer, you know. And just as that line beautifully suggests, there's no you reading that line or hearing what that line. There's just sound. It's just directly whatever's appearing to happen. And in that sense, there's no Bob Dylan. Like,
exactly.
I think he said something like that as well. Maybe he did. He was something more directly like that as well. There is no Bob Dylan. Or I could be confusing him with someone else as well. I'm not sure. Um, but there isn't like life Bob Dylan's and
Yeah.
Beethoven's and everything, and um, it's just aliveness. Yeah, the answer is blown in the wind. Huh? The answer is there is no answer. When you feel like an individual, there's a question because the question really is the sense that there's a you that's hearing, a you that's sitting, a you that's speaking, a you that's thinking. And the question is like, why is there a me? Why have I been abandoned by everything? There's wholeness and there's me. It's just a dissatisfaction in that dualistic, half alive reality or apparent reality. So, of course, if there feels like there's a question, it feels like there's an answer. So you look for whatever answers you can find. Um, and that's there's nothing right or wrong with that. That's just what it appears to be. But for some there's a sensitivity or an openness that actually there is no answer. There's not even a question. There's not even a question because there's not even a you to begin with. There's just this immediate aliveness, energy, whatever. It doesn't matter what word you use. Just it's inescapable. So then there's no answer, but there's no longer a question. If there's no longer a sense of you.
Hi, Kenneth.
Oh, Mark, are you?
How you doing? Yeah.
Good.
When you say nothing happening,
Mm.
that really throws the thinking process and turns it the other way around because, nothing happening. I don't know why, but I don't know what I don't know what you mean by that. And I've heard you say it so often, but it's like, it still sounds like nothing as something happening, which is not what you're saying. But so I
You're stumped with that one, Mark.
yeah, I've strangely stumped with that one, even though I've heard it
Well,
hundreds of
not
times.
not very not strangely, really. I mean,
Yeah,
it's how would you not be stumped with that one? I mean,
yeah,
in the sense that like if you feel that you are an individual who has a life,
mm,
nothing happening will be absolutely everything from just a ridiculous suggestion, um, lunacy, like
mm,
to confusing or bamboozling, or
mm,
because like your lived sense is a linear causal reality in time where one thing happens, then another and another and another.
mm.
So your lived sense of feeling separate is one happening after another. Like, and
Yeah,
it would feel like for people who would feel separate, like I just can't, if everyone was on camera and I looked at everyone here, I just couldn't see an individual. I would
mm,
see a body, but if we're all in the same room and if it was an in-person meeting, it would be the exact same. I
yeah,
wouldn't be able to see an individual. And it's not complicated. It's very simple. The reason I can't see an individual is there's no sense of being an individual here. So all there is just aliveness.
mm,
Um, peopling, if you want to borrow an Alan Watts kind of way of saying it.
yeah,
So that's the way it is. So, but like if someone feels like an individual and they will then feel that they're actually on this Zoom meeting. There'll be a really lived sense of being on a Zoom meeting, and the Zoom meeting is what's happening. So it is happening because, and I know it's happening because there's a phone. I've got a phone on my,
mm,
or I've got a laptop or a computer or whatever, and I can see this um thing,
mm.
This Irish chap, let's call him, and he's he's okay. Like he's not terribly painful,
He's
but
one of our own. He's one of
he's
our
all
own.
right.
Yeah,
He's okay. Like yeah, he's a bit yeah at times, but well, I'll watch him for a while or whatever. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
but it will feel like you are listening to someone speak on a Zoom meeting.
yeah,
So then to be told like this is an appearance or it's apparently happening. I mean, we're like, of course, you can't do anything. There's nobody being asked to do anything with that, or to, you can't understand that. You won't understand that.
no,
You
no.
won't get to a place where, oh, I've been coming to these for a year. Now finally the penny dropped and now I
Oh,
completely get to. Now you could do in a way, in a kind of conceptual way, because everything can be followed conceptually, And I have people have come to a conceptual conclusion that nothing is actually happening. That's
yeah,
fine. But that's just another thing that appears to happen also. It doesn't matter.
mm,
Um, like it's totally beyond understanding.
mm,
If you feel like you're an individual, everything feels real then. You feel real and everything feels like it's happening in time.
mm,
Happening to you directly or happening to other people
yeah,
in time. And that's the way it is. And if you don't feel like an individual, there's just aliveness then. So the realness is gone
mm,
out of everything because the realness was only there when you felt there to have that lived sense of separateness and time ticking,
yeah,
and then of course you see an object, like you can only see an object as you're a subject that sees something. So um and then it's not, it's real. You could say it's real and unreal. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what word, it really doesn't matter what words you use, because
Yeah.
it's not describable at all. But what I kind of like about real and unreal is like that just
Mm.
like that flatlines the brain.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like, what do you do with that? Where do
Yeah.
you go with
yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Where can you possibly go with that? Because for me to go somewhere with it, it's more like just that dichotomy needs to be there. Like it's kind of real
yeah.
or it's unreal, or it's real and then it becomes unreal and then it becomes real again. Maybe I could work with that a little bit. But telling
Mm,
me it's real and unreal, like what am I supposed to do?
mm.
Anyway, yeah, it's very simple. It's very simple.
Yeah.
I feel, Kenneth, like it. I don't feel that there's as much manipulation. You know, say I see the news and there's this horror thing going on. Now, I don't know whether this is what, but it's like it doesn't, I don't feel compelled to act or it's like it's nothing to do with me, if you know what I mean. No, I don't
Yeah.
know what it is.
No,
But
I
then
know what you're
again,
saying, yeah.
do you know what I mean? And then, okay, see all this terrible suffering and whatnot, and it's probably conceptual. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's life happening, and there's no emotional urge to go out and start collecting money or protesting or do
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
That would have been like a reflex, maybe, a few years ago.
Yes, okay. You would have been out with your placard.
I'd be out with a placard, yeah,
Down with this sort of thing.
down with this sort of thing, exactly. Down with this sort of thing, yeah. I'm gonna dance for peace, yeah.
Dance for peace. Oh.
Yeah. So
So that's probably why there isn't as much peace, Margaret. You stop dancing.
stop dancing
And
for peace.
that's
But
why we're spinning into total chaos ever since.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's like it's the same thing really that's been said in a way from what I hear you saying there is it's a sense that you turn on the TV and this is happening here and there and it's the realness. That's what I mean. Like it's possible to see that everything that you felt was real
yeah.
before is a story or a narrative. That's what
Mm.
I mean. Now you could still a sense of being appalled at something could still arise,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
but it's still the realness isn't as much. There's
yes,
some things that are apparently happening that I mean, it's just heartbreaking,
yeah,
and it is heartbreaking, and it's what's appearing to happen, and that's
yeah,
just another way to see it. Is it's aliveness or energy
yeah.
as
But I
that.
find the
Yeah,
heart isn't broken. That's,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah. Yeah, or maybe that's a strong way of putting it. But what I mean is that like you mightn't like it,
yeah,
however that's strong, or
yeah,
however
yeah,
that hits. It doesn't matter
yeah,
how that hits, but you
mm,
might turn something and you're just like, well, I don't like to hear that. That's not a nice thing to hear, or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But it's the difference between feeling it's real and feeling it's an
Mm,
appearance.
yeah,
mm,
Yeah, like terrible, terrible things appear to happen in the
mm,
world.
mm,
Uh, and that's the way it is.
yeah,
Mm. But the difference then is a sense of seeing someone as an object that it's happening to, and
mm,
seeing it as energy appearing as that terrible thing.
mm.
It's an indescribable difference.
mm,
Yeah. I mean, that is the same for everything. It's this, the example there is the news or whatever is going on. But it's this. What we're talking about here is that when you feel you're living your life, everything there's a sense of realness to it, and that's just it's very linear, causal. Excuse me, and it's very much a lived sense of, um, you know, you being there, like they're not just thoughts, like they're your thoughts, they're not just feelings, they're your feelings.
Mm.
You know, it's something that impacted on you in this way, and it's something that this was bad because it stopped my progress towards this, and this person did this, and that person did that, and he said this, and she said this, and then I said this, and blah blah blah. And it's not a story, it's real. There's a realness to it. And there's a neurotic madness to it as well, because it's this neurotic kind of sense of interacting with the other, because they have their life and we're kind of sparking off each other in whatever way. Maybe it's a good way, or appears as a good way, and maybe it's not so good. But it's just layer upon layer of this kind of neurotic dream of you living your life. Then you appear to see it more in what appear as other people. Do you know, like, say, the person you know who's just this absolutely chaotic, relentless drive to improve, or to be better than their neighbor, or to climb the corporate kind of ladder. And you, as their friend or their whatever, you're looking at them going, you're fucking mad as a box of frogs. Like, you can, you are so crazy. Like, can you not see how obvious it is that, like, you can't even enjoy what's around you, or your friends or your family? You're so fucking obsessed with whatever. But it's we're doing the same thing in a different way. But you can kind of, what appear as other people, you can kind of see it. You can, maybe you can see it, but it's all the same. It's just that energy of feeling you have a life. It can get pretty crazy. You know,
Sometimes I've seen people, and there's an appearance of passionateness about something, about a cause, or
yes, yeah.
I just can't seem to crank that up, even if I wanted to. It's like
Yeah. No, you'd have to believe that you have a life, and that your action will bring about uh will affect change. Like, you would have
you're
to feel
right,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, if you don't feel you have a life anymore, how could you be mobilized in that way? Like, but it's also just what's appearing to happen. So someone gets passionate and they're protesting about them. Well, fair. I mean, that's just what's happening.
Yeah.
You might even agree with them and say, yeah, I can see where you come from, whatever. But, like, it's just also just what's appearing to happen. Yeah. It's the sense that it's real, and there's meaning in it. And then, because I have a life and I have free will, we all have free will, I can choose to be an activist, and the action I take will have a knock-on causal effect. So it's within the dream of causality and time and space and separation. It's all the same dream. And to those people like you, not taking up the placard, down with this sort of thing, you're one of those, that you're one of them almost.
Yeah.
You may be, at least you may be one of them then. Because if you're not with me, you're against me, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's the dualistic dream that we live in, this whole polarized, dichotomous, black and white reality that we feel we're living in, that seems like the world. And it gets pretty crazy. Like that recent episode we've all had a break from now, but the American elections, like, how polarizing now. But I mean, you could find so many other examples. It's just the way it is at the moment, or the way it appears to be. It's very simple. There's just aliveness, and wholeness, aliveness appears as pain, and appears as pleasure. It appears as order and peace, and appears as absolute chaos. And everything that you see, of course, is reflective of a divided dualistic reality that we feel we're living in. So that's people are just objects to others. You're just an object. So that's what you see then. Like that's the mental illness of, say, someone who has 1 billion but thinks I need to make another billion, 2 billion, and then when I get to 2 billion, I really need to get to 10 billion. You know, like it's like it's a mental illness. Like it's just it's our okay. It's the bottomlessness of a sense of separation. Because I've lost everything, then it's boundless. How my greed is boundless.
Yeah.
It's boundless and it can never be satiated. It can never be satiated, no matter how many billions I get or how much power I get or whatever. It could never be satiated. Because actually what I'm actually looking for involves total loss. So all of this, the way that we see the play of the world to be, is just reflective of that apparent dualistic reality of separation.
But the world begins to feel a bit tiresome as well. Like, you know, when it was Stu said there about, you know, movies, and I get that, you know, the way things just seem to, they just seem empty. That did seem full before. I mean, amusing maybe, or even
empty, yeah. And that's
individual, you know, people like I find, say, you know, where I work or whatever, people who get very excitable about things who I think, do I have to play along with this?
Yeah. Well, you
Whereas in
don't.
the past, I actually did feel, oh, this is important.
Yeah, no, everything is beautifully meaningless. Yeah,
Definitely meaningless.
it's gorgeously meaningless. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's stunningly, gorgeously meaningless. Whereas for the individual, it would be, oh, it's meaningless. Life is meaningless. Oh, you know, it's just another sort of meaning they're putting on it, really. It's still within that apparent reality, you know. Yeah, but I mean, that's the beauty of the boundless freedom of it is all just a story. But if you still feel separate, it can feel like both. If there still is a sense of separation, it can still feel like both, you know. And very much like when there's a sense of what I'm talking about here, I'm not talking about what's being shared here. There can be a sense of kind of going from seeing everything as a thing, having been special or not special and being full of meaning, to a sense that it's an actual narrative, it's all empty, can feel horrendous. It can be so confronting to the individual who still feels that they're living their life, you see. But then it can become more and more obvious that everything is empty, completely empty. So that just plays out as it does. But really, it's not really until the emptiness is that sense of there being a you, when it really is no longer energetically, then the emptiness is fullness. Then the nothing is everything, obviously everything. And then it's unconditional love then. It always was that, of course, but when there's still that sense of separation. But who knows? I have no idea how it kind of resonates or plays out. Whatever way it plays out.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. It's the shift from, like you said, at work. Oh, this is important. This person said this. That person said that, and I better behave this way around this person. I bet blah blah blah. And that's what I mean when I was saying earlier about this all this neurotic stuff.
Mm.
It's just all nonsense. And then it's just seen there's nothing even happening.
Mm. Yeah.
So like you know, even the sense that there is that work is important, or that you have a manager or someone in some sort of authority over you,
Yeah.
that immediately becomes quite amusing as well, because there's obviously clearly no authority at all.
Mm.
It's just a game or a story. And the more it's seen to be that, the more obvious that it is that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
To say this is aliveness, you know, that sort of, yeah. There's something, just what I was saying earlier, there's something about the word nothing. It's like a big black blob of it's sort of like,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
you know, it's like you try to conceptualize what is nothing, a big black blob of nothing, but then it becomes a something because it's a big black blob. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I
This
know
is where
exactly
the
what you
mind
mean.
plays these.
It's
Yeah,
completely impossible.
yeah,
Totally and utterly impossible. Yeah. I
yeah.
used to say for death, I used to call it the big black blob of like
All right.
people talk about death as if it's a thing, as
Yeah,
if there's a thing called death. And it's almost like that's the way it felt to me, is like you're talking about this big kind of black blobby death thing. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, where's the it's you can't imagine it. If you imagine it, is exactly as you said. If
yeah,
you imagine nothing, you
yeah.
have something,
There's something. Yeah,
which is a concept.
yeah,
So it can't be imagined. Of course it can't be.
yeah,
And this is nothing.
yeah,
Zoom meeting, or whatever words you want to put on it. That's nothing. Couching
yeah,
and Mark and Margaretine.
yeah,
It really is like that's exactly all there is energy.
yeah.
That's all there is energy. It's very simple what's shared over the last hour. Very, very simple and ordinary and direct, and it's very, very simple. That's the genius of it. It appears to hide by being simply directly whatever is appearing
Mm.
to happen. And yet then we get lost looking for it because we make it a something
It's something.
out
Yeah,
of nothing.
it's
And then we think we'll get there someday,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. Or experientially, we might feel that we did get there. We had this glimpse or this big experience, and that was it then. Or I took a load of magic mushrooms and
yeah,
whatever you did. I
yeah.
ended up in a fairy fort and I couldn't get out for a week. But I saw everything was unconditional love. And it's like, yeah, okay, but like what you're telling me now is a story, because
Yeah.
what's being suggested is not an experience or a state or anything, or knowable, and it's very simply directly whatever's appearing to happen. And so we can talk about nothing and something and this and that and subject and object and unconditional love and non-duality and Advaita, and it's all words, 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 words. This is unknowable. Like if you hear this communication and it feels clear and uncompromising, it's from a character that doesn't know it. That's the difference. It's just a sharing, and in friendship, in open friendship.
Yeah.
I don't mean friendship with the one we think of as friendship as some sort of an agenda. You do this for me and I'll do that for you.
Yeah,
You scratch,
yeah, yeah.
no, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's completely agendaless
Yeah.
sharing from nothing.
Do you know all those heavy hitting names, Kenneth? You know, like Socrates and Plato and
Yeah,
Ramana and all the lot of them.
Kenneth Madden. Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Don't laugh like that,
I
Mark.
think,
Top of the list.
yeah.
These the two.
Yeah, yeah. Don't. That was.
They just, I just want, maybe the name is mentioned, you know, like, oh, Socrates said blah, de, blah, and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really mean anything then.
I mean, of course it does. Like it's just
Doesn't know any more
Socrates,
than
life
I.
Socrates,
Yeah.
whatever.
But
Yeah,
it's not
and
Socrates,
Jesus Christ and all that.
yeah, they're all just.
Well, there was no Socrates, but life
Yeah.
Socrates. There is no Kenneth Madden.
Yeah.
except that life is Kenneth Maddening.
Yeah.
That's all, it's energy.
Mm.
There was no Jesus Christ,
Mm.
but there's the narrative of Jesus Christ,
Mm.
you know, and it's the same for any apparent individual you care to bring up.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it is. And that can be just very, very obvious.
Yeah.
And none of it, like, because we feel we live in knowing, then these guys are big kind of heavy hitters in the
Mm.
intellectual world. And
Yeah.
so people feel a sense of importance as well by knowing the works of Plato, the works of
Yeah.
Socrates,
Yeah.
and especially in the realm of philosophy.
Yeah.
Like you can do a course on how to regurgitate the knowledge in a way
Mm.
that sounds there's actually YouTube videos on it, like how to surmise different periods of and different characters
Yeah.
in a way that it makes you sound like you know what you're talking about, basically.
Mm.
And that's what people do. But also, it's also interesting, of course, because
Mm.
some of it is interesting. It's about
Mm.
like what is this? What is this aliveness? Blah blah blah. Who am I, or whatever.
Mm.
But another interesting way of seeing it is that there was no the aliveness appeared as these characters, and
Mm.
actually the more interesting ones, I would say, are kind of pointing to what's been said here, is that
Mm.
actually really it's unknowable, and there is no separate you or separation at all in any way. You know, so you get like you will find writings, both say that fall under spiritual stuff,
Mm.
um, maybe some religious stuff, and philosophical writings that will echo what's said here. But
Mm.
I really don't care to quote too much because I don't
Yeah.
bother. It doesn't interest me that much, really.
Mm.
Some people are all about that, fair.
Mm.
But it doesn't matter. Like, it's not knowable what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Really isn't, at all. Like, there was no Jesus, you know, there was no Buddha.
Mm.
They didn't have some secret knowledge that we can get access to.
Yeah.
It's all a story. But some of what they were saying is very similar to what's been said here.
Mm.
But it's overlaid them with dogma and nonsense.
Mm.
But it's not in a book, you know. This isn't in a book or a YouTube video or it's not in anything, because it is already all that is. It is the confusion that appears to arise. It is the yearning. It is the pain. It is the pleasure. It is the blah blah. It is the blah blah. It is the what, you know. It's just this. It's inescapable.
Mm.
Absolutely ordinary and inescapable. And then it can be the other possibility that we've been talking about for an apparent hour, is that instead of this lived reality of you living your life, it can just be that there's just aliveness, and that's absolute free fall. Then everything is in complete free fall, full on aliveness for nobody, and everything is new, and everything is new. That's the possibility that we've been talking about. And if I put this on YouTube and someone's listening to it on YouTube, it's that like they're listening to this on their headphones or through their phone or a computer, and it is the sense of sitting on the chair or standing or walking or driving or and seeing visually, and the sounds, and it is whatever's appearing. That's all there is wholeness, fullness. There's no you that's there. When it just can be seen. It's just very obvious. It's too obvious. It's so obvious and simple.